Hashem Svasatitach Upiag Sacha. Now we're going to give an introduction to Sefer Ezra. Ezra is the last of the Sefer Tanakh to be included in the Sefer Tanakh, and Ezra happened during the time of Shivas Tzion. Just to go back, so we have a historical framework. So first of all, remember, we had the Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar is the king of Babel. He destroys the Beis HaMikdash and he takes down Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah. He takes them down into Gullus, and we have Gullus. Then we have Evan Merodach. He is very short-lived, followed by Belshazzar. Remember, Belshazzar is the last of the kings of Babel, and he sees the actual writing on the wall, and he was very excited, thinking that the 70 years that were promised, after the 70 years, Babel would no longer be the superpower. He miscounted. Remember, we said Daniel also miscounted, thinking that the Churban was going to that the rebuilding was going to last for a different amount of, for the 70 years. Everyone's counting the 70 years wrong. Really, it's from the time of the Churban of the Beis HaMikdash, not from the time that Nebuchadnezzar started his reign. And as a result, he is killed. Belshazzar is killed by Media. There's Darius of Media, and then comes who we're going to be with right now, which is Koresh of Paras. Koresh is a very interesting king. The name Koresh is synonymous with something very good, because what does he do? He gives Shivas Tzion. He gives permission to the Jews to return to Eretz Yisrael. He gets this epiphany that they should be allowed to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. He even gives them some of the kelim of the Beis HaMikdash, and he allows them to go. Unfortunately, however, the Jews in Gullus are entrenched in Gullus, and they don't all go. At first, it's only about 1,500 men, and in total, there's about 7,000 people, including children and women. And they go up to Eretz Yisrael, followed by another bigger movement. Some say it was 32,000, some say 42,000, but in any event, it's certainly nowhere near the amount that is needed. And finally, Ezra takes another grouping who he thinks is going to be amazing. He takes that grouping with Nehemiah. Zerubbabel had taken the grouping before, and it was much larger, and Ezra, who realizes that the Jewish people are really entrenched in avodah zarah and illicit relations, he tries very hard to get them to stop doing what they're doing. Ultimately, what is Ezra? So who wrote Sefer Ezra? So Ezra wrote Ezra with the help of the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah. In fact, Ezra is the founder and creator of the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah. What was so great about, why were they Gdolah? Why are they so great? So these were the greatest of the time, the greatest people, the 120 Zikanim, the Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, Haggai, Zachariah, Malachi. These are the leaders, the greatest of the time. And what happens during that time is something very important. So first of all, they realize that the Jewish people are entrenched in avodah zarah in such a strong way that we're never going to get out of it. And so they beg Hashem, and they plead, Hashem, please take away our Yetzer Hara for avodah zarah. And in fact, HaKadosh Baruch Hu listens. But we've learned, in order for there to be true bechira, true capability to choose good, so that we have the capability to choose, we have to have the capability to choose bad. And so if we're getting rid of the bad, HaKadosh Baruch Hu also got rid of the good. And so what do we say goodbye to? We say goodbye to Nevuah. This is the last time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to speak directly to people, to the klal. We're no longer going to have Nevuah. And so what do the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah do? Now, remember, communication is key. It's all about how we communicate. And so if we don't get the communication from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then what the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah do is they make sure that we can communicate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that our tefillos are stronger. And so they are misakin. They put together brachos, tefillos, kedushos, making kiddush, and havdalahs. And in that way, they ensure that although Hashem is not going to speak directly to us, we will take within our time, within our lives, the right words to speak to Hashem. And so they are very instrumental. And they understand that we're going into a different period of time, but it's needed. And so that's exactly what happened. They did try to take away arayos, but then, then chicken didn't lay eggs, and we messed up the whole reproductive experience in the world. So they brought it back. In any event, Ezra was part of that Anshe Knesset Agdola. The other thing that the Anshe Knesset Agdola did while they're making tefillas is that they brought back, they're called Gdola because remember, we have Hakel, Hagadol, Hagibor, Vahanora, when we say that in Shemona Esrei, and Moshe Rabbeinu started that, and then it was Daniel, and it was Yirmiyahu, who took away Hagadol, one took away, remember, Hanora, and it was because they didn't feel it anymore. Wow, if we're in Gullus, how is Hashem so great and how is Hashem so awful? Meaning in awe sense. But the Anshe Knesset Agdola were able to interpret, no, Gullus is going to be a different experience for you. You're going to have to see the Yad of Hashem, you're going to have to work a little bit harder. And it's always there. And never to feel like Hashem doesn't love you. Of course he does. And he's there. Of course he is. And he's awesome. Of course he is. But now it's not going to be so direct. You have to read between the lines and you have to look for it. Now, why was Ezra in Bavel for such a short amount of time? Only, a mere many, many years after, why is he going? And in the third round of this, he had waited so many years, 23 years, while he's in Gullus. What's going on? And so the answer is because as long as his Rebbe, Baruch ben Neriah, was alive, 100-year-old Talmid Chacham, a tzaddik, and the student, the direct student of Yirmiyahu, which means that we're continuing the Mesorah here, he wasn't going to leave him. And so he stayed in Gullus for that reason. It was also his purpose to help the Jews in Gullus. And so for that, he was, he had to think about the tzarchei tzibur be'emunah. But it really gives us, this Sefer gives us pause because we think about and we see the awesomeness of the Yad of Hashem. We see the crazy changes and turns of events. It's very unusual for a king one day to just give us permission and then to take it back, because that's ultimately what happened. What happens is that Koresh, in his first year, he gives permission. The second year, more Jews go back. And then they have to wait many years before they're able to go again. Why? Because we have the story of Achashverosh in the middle. And it is not until Daryavish, the Persian, that we're able to go back a third time, just to continue to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. What's happening then? We see the Yad of Hashem, but we also see that Ezra lives in different times. Not times of just obvious miracles, but in times where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is peeking through the window. And he's giving permission to something that is clearly Yad of Hashem, but in natural ways. But it's up to us to do something about it. And the Jews in Gullus are just not interested. Maybe perhaps they feel that the Beis HaMikdash is not going to be the same, because ultimately it wasn't the same. It was missing a lot of the key elements. But it was still something that was beautiful, something that we were able to do. Now, Ezra is really connected to the Sefer of Nehemiah. They're really all one, and it was really only during the printing press time that it was divided into two Sefarim. Who is Nehemiah? Nehemiah also wrote part of Ezra Nehemiah. However, the Mefarshim say that either he took some of the kavod for himself, or he spoke a little bit derogatory about some of the people, the Rabbanim, the Tzaddikim. So for that reason, he's downgraded to be for it to be Ezra and Nehemiah. And so, without further ado, we now begin the beautiful Sefer of Ezra. Remember, Ezra is about the Jews who are in Gullus, who have opportunity to go on home, and who think to themselves, you know what, it's good, but this just doesn't feel like this is the ultimate of Mashiach. It feels like we can hold out in Gullus just a little bit longer, that we don't have to come, that we have it pretty good. You know what, we have a lot of Torah, we have a lot of good things happening here, it's beautiful here, it's lovely, we have full permission and our own autonomy. Why would we leave? Yeah, why would we leave?